Hi crafters, this is Amy. Today I decided to get my paper making kit out and make some paper. I really haven't made any paper since I started doing cards and that type of thing. So, and there's a couple other methods here I hadn't tried before. I started doing paper making years ago when I was a Girl Scout leader, and the first items I used were actually just these items right here. Just a cutout plastic lid, a piece of regular window screening, and you know, just was able to find things around the house to make pieces of paper before I went ahead and got this kit. I had gotten a kit for the Girl Scout troop since had purchased it back from them. So here, I'll show you the parts of the kit here first. And just to show you too, this is the Arnold Grummer's Easy Paper Making Kit. And this is the VHS, the paper mill it's called. And so, you know, all the instructions were on here, and that's the kit that I used. And he's got a couple different kits, I guess. But again, you don't need a kit. You can use those household items. So here is the hand mold. This hand mold is made with wood that is meant, you know, to be able to go in wood, and then in water, and then it has these hook and loop fasteners to hold the mold together once you're doing your paper. You have the screen. The screen, which would go on the, there it does, on the bottom here. And then you have your grid. This is a plastic grid. Now, this was kind of, I didn't really have in my other method, but you know, you can figure that out. And that goes on here, like so. And then this goes into the water, which I'll show you. I have to use my sink. I used to have a kitchen wash tub, and I think that's up at my camper, so I don't have that. So I need to use the sink. So this would go in the water. And the next thing you have is your cover screen. That's using this to sponge water out of your paper. You have your sponge. Okay, you have a sponge. You have your press bar. This is made out of recycled milk jugs. And then you have your couch, or it's spelled couch, but it said couch sheets is how he pronounces it. And these are just some paper absorbing towels, I guess, that you you know, press to draw water out of the sheet of paper you just made. I only have 2 of these couch. It's spelled couch, C-O-U-C-H. So what I was trying to use today was a cut up ShamWow, because what happens with these, and because I only have 2 and they are kind of expensive, you have to let them dry in between, and once these get wet they don't absorb any more water. So I'm hoping that the ShamWow, and I just bought this, you can now get these for $1 a sheet, and they're the actual, you know, original ShamWow. And I cut them up into the size of the couch sheets, and I'm hoping to be able to use them a little bit more even after they're wet, you know, because they're supposed to absorb water when they're wet. And okay, so now the next thing is you need a blender, and I just have this old blender that I just bought at a rummage sale. And you'd probably want to dedicate a blender to paper making, because once you get that paper in there, you probably really don't want to make a smoothie. Okay, so what he in the video had suggested is, when you're first making your paper, to start with about an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And that will make you a piece of paper that, you know, is a certain thickness, and then after that you can decide, do you want it thinner, do you want it thicker, just depending on what you're doing. Another new things I'm trying here is just using paper out of my paper shredder. See that you gotta kind of cut this up anyway. And then I'm using this old napkin. And you can use just about any kind of paper that you can tear up and put in here. You might even want to separate this and you know, tear it up as much as you can before throwing it in there. And in our blender now we're going to make our paper pulp. And so put that in. This might be alright, then you just want to cover this with water. It doesn't really matter how much water you have in there, just so it's enough to slosh the water around. And then you want to blend this until it's looks like it's all chopped up. Now I could stop here. I could stop here. I can still see like little chunks of white paper in there, and if that's the look you want, otherwise you would just continue blending it until it got, you know, to the color or whatever you want. You could put food coloring in here to change your paper colors. There's a bunch of different methods. So the next thing we need to do is get this into our mold. And again, I'll put the mold together. I kind of had a mishap here with my camera, so I'm doing this again. Again, you put your paper screen on the bottom and your grid on top of that. Close this up. And we're going to dump our, our paper pulp in here, and this is going to be the size of our paper. So I'll take this over to the sink. Another thing that you'll need is some kind of a cookie sheet or some type of tray that you can put this on and catch the water after you're done. So you take your mold and you get it in the water here, and you kind of scoop the water in and get it down in there. And you pour your paper pulp right into your mold. Now you want to distribute that paper pulp as evenly as you can, because if it's not evenly floating above the screen, once it hits the screen, that's how it's going to distribute. So just kind of mix it around till you get it, and you lift it out of the water as level as you can and let that water drain out. Okay, now we'll take it over to here, and at this point we can take it out of the mold. So you lift, and be careful when you're lifting this up, because sometimes it will stick to this edge, and of course you don't want that to happen. And you pull your mold out, and then you're ready to start taking the water out of your piece of paper. So I'm still leaving it on the grid, because for this first part we'll squish water through and soak it up. So I'll take this back over to the, well, I guess I don't have to do that. Just tighten this up. So now you need your screen, and you put your screen on top of your paper, and you start using your sponge, and you start pressing, and press as much water out of it as you can. As you draw the water out of the paper, the pulp fibers start to bond together. You don't want to try and dabble like this, because you just won't take enough water out. You really need, to press on this. And remember, when you're pressing, the water's not going to draw out until you lift up on the sponge and let it draw out of there. Okay, so I think that's about all I'm going to be able to get out with the sponge. So now you want to take your screen off, and that's where you start using your cooch sheets. So first I will do it with a cooch sheet. Now what we want to do now is we want to transfer this piece of paper from our screen actually to the cooch sheet. So we will take it like this and turn it over, and again you start pressing, and now you're actually pressing the moisture into the cooch sheet and hopefully transferring, well, eventually transferring your piece of paper to the cooch sheet. So let's see. Yep, there we go. Now it's transferred. And you can see I have, I don't know if you can see, you know, the speckles of the white paper in there, and you can see some of the printing and the red. So now what you'll want to do is, now I'm going to try that ShamWow. And now you take another cooch sheet, pressing that on top. Now you would use your press bar, which is this hunk of plastic, and you really start, you can press as much water out of it as you can. The difference being, you know, the more water you can press out of it, the shorter time it will take to dry, and you just keep, I'm going to flip this over, taking your cooch sheets or the ShamWow. I actually think this is working really well. And now you could take, well, I would take this really wet one off. And now this you would let dry. See, now I'm done with this, you know, till tomorrow, so that's why I got the ShamWows. Now you could take it like this and press this, you know, under some weight and let it dry. And with doing this, this will all dry evenly. It might take, you know, 16, 17 hours to dry, but as it dries, it'll dry evenly, and it should dry flat, especially if you have some weight on it. If you're in a hurry, you can take this, now see, this has bound together, and you could take this and iron it, and dry it quickly with the iron. So I'll show you that in a little bit. So that's the basic paper making, and I think it turned out really cool. And now you could, you know, cut this out any shape, or, you know, cut your cover, you know, for the front of the card for your basic size card. You could cut that out of there, and your choices of paper is kind of limitless. You can use just about any kind of paper that you can tear up and throw in the blender. And there's other things you can do as well, but just wanted to show you that basic paper making. Okay, just wanted to show you a couple of other sheets of paper that I did make in the past. Don't know how well you can see this. This is a blue, and I don't know if you can see it, but I did put actual glitter in there, and the glitter did embed right into that paper. So there's one with glitter. Oh, here's a different glitter. This was with red glitter, and that stays in there. That is not flaking off. I mean, there might have been a couple of pieces that, you know, flaked off as it was drying, but that's just actually really embedded into that paper. And I think this probably makes a half a sheet of paper, and so you could make your standard size card. Here's one just in a purple. This one, oh, this one I tried to stick pieces of ribbon in there, and I think there's little bits of plant or flower bits in that one. This one is a method of using several different paper pulps. You would chop up your different paper pulps, and then as you pour them into the mold, you know, you just don't mix them up all together like we did with this piece of paper. You try to keep your colors separated. Obviously this didn't turn out great, but that was an attempt at that. And then this one I put, you can see some of that, it's Christmas, kind of making bows out of it. It's that stuff that they punch sequins out of, and then they sell the rest of it as decorations at Christmas. So I stuck some of those in there, and so there you go. Have a great day.